Hello, everybody. Welcome to our bonus podcast. I'm the host of the podcast, Donatas URBONUS, and I'm joined by the head coach of Budućnost Podgorica, Aleksandar Dzikic. Hello, coach.
Yeah. Hello, Donatas. Laba diena, man. Laba diena.
Oh, you have some Lithuanian.
No, I know about 20 words, man. I know about 20 words.
But yeah, since 10 years passed? I mean, how many
Yeah,
years
now
ago
it's
you
like-
worked in Ritas?
Yeah,
10 years.
10 years. Yeah, it is like this.
Oh my God. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to have you here, actually. But tell me, for the beginning, tell me your best Olympic Games highlights so far from Tokyo.
Oh, actually, I'm trying. You know what I'm trying? Because I'm trying not to watch them live. I'm trying to record them and watch them again. So I'm building a pile of the games that I want to watch in a day. So I will do that. How they call it? Binging of the games from Olympic Games, but probably still understanding it's round games. I know there are some surprises. Obviously, we all know it, but it is what it is, man. It is kind of strange to watch Olympics without Serbian team and Lithuanian team, to be honest. So
Oh, yeah.
I guess I would watch it with more how to say that passion if those two teams are there. Since you know how I feel about Lithuanian basketball.
Tell me
So
about
many times.
the level of disappointment in Serbia because of the national team.
Well, honestly, it was kind of heavy. It's not like that we didn't expect or we had that, oh, it's going to be easy. We knew it's not going to be easy because there's so many things. And but listen, it is what it is. And probably the worst thing that could happen is that we are let ourselves be stuck in a moment and mourn for 2, 3, I don't know how many years. And I think that we should, reset and keep on going because, as you know, every year right there after right after the corner, it's a next challenge. You don't have time to feel sorry about yourself. It is what it is. We had problems with the injured players, with those kind of things, but plus Italia played incredible game. I don't know. Did you watch it or not?
Some parts of it, yeah. But
yeah,
I know Italians can be
incredible, unbelievably good.
Yeah, for me, it was kind of, the same kind of upset like we had in 2004 Athens Olympic Games in semifinals, Lithuania, Italy. When, USA was out already, they lost to Argentina and we were playing against Italy and we were thinking that, oh, we're going to play in the final game for the Olympic gold, but Italy happened. I mean, they like to surprise people.
Well, we had a similar situation 2005 in Novi Sad when Serbian team didn't pass the group. So I don't know, it happened, and whatever it is, just let's all try not to happen again. What else can I say? I always say if there is a problem, try to first of all try to find it. Then there is absolutely no positives in denying it, the problems. So it is what it is. We should be real and keep on going. We should learn from this and prepare for the next opportunity. It is what it is. The problem is that in both countries, the expectations are crazy,
enormous.
crazy high. Yeah, it's unbelievably high. It is what it is, man. On one side, it's great. It makes you feel, proud about yourself and the country when you're representing. But on the other end, obviously, it's pressure.
One of the few positives that Lithuania and Serbia are not in Tokyo is that we can enjoy the game as fans right now. And the next thing is that we can discuss the NBA draft, because if Serbia and Lithuania were in Tokyo, we wouldn't have time for this, I guess. And
we would probably have less time for it. Honestly, we would probably have less time for it. But I mean, maybe I'm not the right type of the person, because like from year after year after year, I'm really trying to follow the NBA draft. I don't. Maybe that's not a common. Maybe it's not a thing. For some other coaches, but I think it's important. To because following those type of I'll use the word events. Simply, it will help you to analyze what's going on and maybe to recognize the tendencies. And as you know, like if you can recognize and figure out the tendencies, what will be very important in the future that could help you as a player, as a coach.
Tell me about these tendencies. I had an introduction of you. I wanted to mention that you were the assistant coach of Minnesota Timberwolves back in 2005 to 2007. And probably in some way you were a part of NBA draft process. And since you follow NBA draft right now in the current years, what kind of tendencies and what kind of differences you see in terms of how teams and scouts, NBA people approach draft right now, and how did they approach the draft like 16 years ago?
Yeah, I'm not sure that there is a like universal rule. I think it's a little bit different from team to team, which is kind of normal, because different teams, they have different goals, they have different needs. Some teams, they can afford, and we were talking before we started recording this, we were talking about it. Like some teams, they are drafting players who could be a sudden impact, players that could help those teams win right now. Some teams, they have a luxury to have, let's say, 2-3 years for type of, let's call it a rebuilding process. So maybe you can afford to do one of two things: to leave player in Europe. Historically, we had many examples of it, or also to bring a player to NBA and work over there with the players that that you will use in the future, but you believe that it is better for them to be in a type of environment that your club can provide. And there are many good examples of it. I will just emphasize right now the case of Vlatko Cancar, the player of Slovenian team, the guy who is in Denver Nuggets. And watching Slovenia in a qualifying tournament, and right now, everybody's kind of surprised, like, who is this kid and what's going on. But honestly, him being there and knowing a little bit about what type of work he's going through, I'm not that surprised, to be honest. I'm not that surprised. Is he going to be a rotation guy for his team in next season or seasons? I don't know, but obviously there is a change in his game, in his body, and if we want to be honest, that's not the only example. We can find many examples of it, because some teams really believe that they can develop players better or more properly in States than if they live in Europe, which makes sense, especially if players have to, work on their body or skills, because, and we will talk about this later, number of games, sometimes it's not the friend for a player.
By the way, talking about Vlatko, was he always that confident? Like I saw him in Kaunas. Does that confidence comes from his body changes and maybe NBA experience? Even though he's not playing a lot, it seems like being with a winning team helped him to step on the floor so confident on himself, and he's just amazing. I mean, if not in the NBA, in the EuroLeague, he would be a perfect stretch four.
Absolutely, that's a great point. He looks very confident. I mean, they play very confident. Obviously, they have a clear leader with Doncic, and they really have players. They look like they enjoy playing together. That's my first impression when I'm watching those games. And by the way, I'm very happy because their coach is my ex assistant coach from Krka Novo Mesto days, and I'm so proud, so happy for him. I mean, finally, he's getting the recognition that.
Tell me your story about Aleksander Sekulic.
I mean, listen, we worked together. We worked together for like 3 years in Novo Mesto, and I think he's a great person, great coach. I mean, good in X and O's, very good in communications, kind of patient, down to earth type of guy. Obviously understanding what's going on with that team, and sometimes people don't understand how hard could be to coach a superstar. Obviously, they have one. I mean, they have Luka Doncic as a superstar, but right now they look pretty good. And the way they're playing, I don't want to say I'm not good in predictions and everything, but the way they're playing, they're pretty good. They look pretty good right now. They look pretty good in this moment. Just to go back for a second on Cancar, that's a great point, great question. He looked very confident, and he looked as a part of the team. Probably those two are mixing with him putting a lot of work over there. Yes, in a theory, he's lacking minutes in the games and everything, but so far we didn't see that. He simply looks like, let's use the term, regular player.
Yeah. And you mentioned, all these tendencies of NBA teams. One teams are willing, to draft a guy which you can wait for 2-3 years. For example, there are a few good examples of Denver Nuggets when they were already a growing team in the Western Conference. They drafted Michael Porter. It was a bit of risk because of his injuries and his history and stuff. But, they wanted to draft him because they had a luxury to draft one young guy and to wait for him to develop because the rest of the roster was already solid. Then 2 years ago or 1 year later, they drafted Ball. It's a completely long-term project because, again, they had a great roster. So they had a luxury to get a guy who can be somebody in like 3 or 4 years. But I'm a bit surprised because wasn't it like that 15 years ago? I mean, when you compare,
it was again. I have to say, like, I don't know how it was. I truly believe there is no universal rule. I think it was, again, I'm repeating that from team to team. I think it was pretty much the same over there. What is the biggest? What is the most important thing when you're trying to pick a player, drafting a player? I think it is, projecting his ceiling, how good he can be after some time. Some players are very good right now, so they can help you. Some players will be good in a future. Sometimes, you draft and leave them in Europe, especially second round picks or, those low risk picks. It's fine. And then if they improve, it is a great example of you being a guy with a vision or a team with a vision. And sometimes simply they just feel that player didn't develop the way they were expecting. It is different from player to player. We were talking about Pokuševski as an example of a player who was, I don't know, is it the right word to use it? He was like a no name on a EuroLeague, on the highest level of European basketball. But as you said, great example of unexpected successful first season. And I'm pretty sure nobody can deny that, because, having this type of the season in a team where he is right now, and sort of, and as you know, like Oklahoma is in a position with all those draft picks, they can really change the looks of some drafts, even this one, next one in the years. I mean, they have so many picks, so what they will do with them can really change situation for so many clubs. But again, Pokusevski is an example of the player that went over there. He had a chance. He simply used the chance in a proper way. Obviously, when you watch him from the start till the end of the season, he was better and better. So he was developing. Some players they went over there and they are lacking minutes or chance in real games. So I think it's very individual.
Pokusevski was playing for the second team of Olympiacos.
Yes.
And that's again surprising because we now witness players like Garuba, like Jokubaitis playing important roles for their teams on the EuroLeague level in the playoffs and stuff. When Pokusevski was only the young prospect of the youth team of Olympiacos. And I'm thinking, from the coach standpoint, how did you have any situations like that when you had some young guy on the bench and he was drafted, for example, and he had some, surprising NBA career. And when you try to figure out, what I was missing as a coach, maybe I should give him opportunities, or maybe he was not ready and now it's just, timing and stuff. I mean, how to understand that kind of process if you would be, for example, Olympiacos head coach?
Well, it all depends. It all depends on what kind of club you're working as a coach. Some clubs are less patient, more demanding. They want to win every single day. And when you have that type of situation, it's kind of hard for you to find enough time and enough situation for a young player to develop, and at the same time to stay on the same, how to say that, winning percentages, trying not to lose the games. And again, I'm not sure that you can develop players giving them those minutes during the garbage time. You know what the garbage time is. So, and it is. Some teams cannot afford young guys. Simply, they cannot. And that's why that example of Jokubaitis, player that you guys in Lithuania or all over the Europe knows well, or Usman Garuba. Well, you have those two, I will use the word kids, and I don't mean anything bad by it. When you have those two kids, and they're very important in their club, they're not 11th, 12th, 13th player in the rotation. They are very important. For example, I don't know, Rokas had 21 minutes in EuroLeague, am I right?
Exactly. One of the highest numbers in all team, probably more than Joffrey Laverne, for example.
And for example, he played like 74 games last season. I don't know, are you aware of it? And when we are talking about minutes, I will just say, like, for example, Garuba played 86 games. So compare those two numbers, 74, 86, with we were talking about one of the Euro kids who is right now in States. That's Franz Wagner, who had, like, in 2 seasons, he had only I think it was 55 games. So what's better for a young player? Obviously, these two are they prove themselves on the highest level out of the NBA. So watching them, evaluating them, is a little bit easier, for the guys in the NBA who are making decisions, who are making calls about those two players. And if you ask me, probably for me, you will not find better young players in their positions in Europe. For me, I don't know. Rokas is probably with him and the kid from Barcelona, Dimitrievich, are two best. I call them ball handlers, young ball handlers in Europe. And Garuba, like, when we're talking about Garuba, first of all, every time I'm watching him, the first thing I forget is how old is he? And he's only, I don't know, 19, am I right?
Something around 19, yeah.
Yeah, 19. He was 19 in March or something like that. And then you watch EuroLeague playoff series, FS Pilsen, Real Madrid, and you're just like, wow. For me, in those games, he was the player that Coach Lasso couldn't afford to put on a bench. That's how it looked to me. And I was really trying to watch it as a fan because I really like both teams. I like what they're doing. But for example, Real Madrid is a example of the team who can afford, and historically that's what they are doing, giving chance to a little bit younger guys. But to be honest, they are always having super talented young players, giving them chance. It's not like they're having no names and trying to prove that they're worth of playing on that level. And Garuba is one of those kids. And the fact that Rokas signed for Barcelona, and the whole Europe knows that this season is very important for that club, because after what happened last year, they will probably have an even more pressure to win. But again, decision to sign a young kid as he is, actually for me, it's quality approved stamp on that kid. Is he NBA level, game changer guy? Who knows? But is there enough skill set for him in this moment to be very interesting for the NBA? I think it is. I mean, honestly, I'm not. How to say that? I'm a big fan of the kid, so maybe I'm not the right person.
You mentioned about Garuba.
About him. Yeah.
You mentioned Garuba and his incredible playoff series against Efes. I was also fascinated watching Garuba playing defense like that. Especially, it was probably game 3 or game 4 when Real was trying, to get back in the game, and Garuba was switching on every possession in defense, and it was Shane Larkin, it was Misic, it was Bobois. Nobody could beat him, and it was amazing.
It's crazy, huh?
It's crazy. Unbelievable. It's really unbelievable.
And those are some of the best shot creators in Europe.
Yeah, I cannot find better guys like them.
There are some, but those 3 are, I think, top 10 shot creators in Europe.
Yeah,
you will not find too many guys able to create their own shots.
But at the same time, what is strange to me, when we mention all this number of games, being on a high level every week, playing amazing series against FS, I see all these ESPN's mock drafts, the Athletics mock drafts and stuff like that, and I see Usman Garuba dropping by a few positions down, like from 10, 15 to 19. Right now, he's projected as 19th pick by ESPN. How to understand that kind of process?
Well, there is a very old song from a hip hop band, Public Enemy, "Don't Believe the Hype." And sometimes hype is a big part of draft process. And as you know, you're following draft for years. Everybody who's following the draft, every year there is I call it draft dynamics. From season to season, one player starts low, then he goes up, then somebody who is like projected very high really drops down. And we even had we had the chance to witness surprises on the draft night and everything. So sometimes it's hard to understand that hype, and again, it all depends who is drafting those players, who is evaluating. Because honestly, I will give you the example with Garuba. Where his ceiling is. So you have a guy that with the highest possible energy level, with a good size, with the ability that, when you were asking me about a tendency, one of the defensive tendencies nowadays is you having ability or luxury to have big guys who will kill your pick and roll with switching, meaning they will stay in front of the shot creators, and still it will not going to be easy for them. And I think Usman Garuba is one of those guys. Can he improve his game in offense? Yes, but the energy, the mobility, defensive options that you as a coach have with him, For me, they're valuable. For some other, obviously, they're not. I mean, it's fine. They're not. I'm like, for years, back, I'm like, okay, you and me, we have different opinions about things. It's fine. You will, in your mock draft, one player will be on a 7th place. In my mock draft, he will be on a 17th place. So it's fine. It's really, I think at the end, it's all about, situation. I believe that it's very important to understand that drafting athletes is very important. The players with a talent, with a natural gift, and then working on their skills. I think it's a little bit easier process than having a player with a skill set that you like, but athletically not on the level that you need. If you understand what I'm trying to say, I'm not sure. But those two kids are great example of somebody who proved himself on the highest possible level. But then we can talk about him, that player from Michigan, I'm talking about Wagner, Franz Wagner, who is lately, as you said, is having a better and better position on those mock draft lists, which is fine. Honestly, where I am right now, I don't know how good he is during the workouts. Some players have amazing workouts. And, you just change the opinion after you see live what player can do. And I understand that. Comparing the numbers, analyze it just based on data, I think it's just a part of evaluation process.
Tell me a bit more in detail about these workouts, because sometimes it's really so strange to hear, as you already mentioned. You're watching the guy for like Franz Wagner. I'm sorry, he's Morris Wagner brother. You're watching the guy for 2 years playing for Michigan, and okay, Wagner is right now is just an example. But then you have him in your workouts, and it seemed like you knew everything about the guy. But in the workouts, you change your opinion, you change your attitude, approach on the player. What can happen in the workout?
Sometimes players look extremely dominant when you watch them live. Sometimes they look bigger, sometimes they look faster, sometimes they look more dominant when you watch them live with the group that you have on the floor, if they're working out with some other guys, or maybe you can have individual workout, whatever it is. Sometimes you will be in a shock when you see players having those I call them isolating shooting drills, when you're those are not live drills or something like that, but all of a sudden you understand that maybe somebody is a way better shooter than you were ever expecting. You never know. Or maybe if they have interviews, some teams are having interviews, some teams they don't, I know. And sometimes you're just like, after that interview, like, wow, did you hear?
Isn't it like, to compare it with, let's say noticing some girls in the club, you're so fascinated because of, that kind of experience, but wouldn't you trust your two-year work of scouting instead of, being so hyped about, these workouts and this short time together?
You heard that before. Many girls are looking very good under disco light, under club lights, So you never know. Sometimes when you see her or she sees you on the broad daylight, she's like, that's not the guy I want. And sometimes, sometimes workouts will tell you something about the workout of the player. I believe there are two groups of players: energy givers, energy takers. And you're I believe there's 9 of 10 coaches will always try to recruit or sign or have energy givers in their team. Having a energy vampire in a team it's simply you trying to avoid that. And sometimes players are like that. Sometimes our players are like that. So that's why all that process for us, out of league, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different, and I guess it's a little bit hard for people to understand for, let's say, ordinary basketball fan. And then there is the thing that I don't even want to open that topic about the over scouting. When you are watching somebody and you're following somebody too much, that all of a sudden things that maybe you never thought that you will find, all of a sudden they're becoming very visible to you.
What is over scouting for you? I mean, did you have experiences
Listen,
like that?
I will not mention the name of the player, but I know that player very good, and you know him good because he played in Europe. I will just say this. So let's say that on his, let's say it's just his third year of the college, and he was great, and his college was very successful. They had a great season, and he was shooting well, he was playing well, everything was really good. He made a decision to stay one more year. All of a sudden, people were expecting him to go from here to here. It never happened. So, he decided to play one more year, and all of a sudden, all scouts are like, okay, there is a chance to watch him more, and they didn't like what they saw. I mean, that player made a great. That player from that example, he made a great European career, but who knows what would happen if he decided to follow that first scenario. Him leaving, I don't know is the proper word, early or on time, but he decided to wait, and then some things were simply, how to say that, were more visible, or obviously, I will just give you the simple example so everybody could understand. Obviously, you're watching Jokubaitis way more than me, and you know more about him than me. I'm watching games, but you also have off-court information, all those things, but for example, at the same time, I'm watching Petrusev way more than you. So maybe I see something that you don't see, and vice versa. When we are talking about Jokubaitis, that's what I'm talking about. When
and as more information you have, there's a risk of judging the player and being too hard on him. Probably is that the case in scouts' life? I mean, sometimes
listen. I know many scouts, and their position is different from team to team. Some of them are very valuable for their teams, their GMs or presidents of basketball operations, for the guys who are making decisions. But then some of them, they're fully aware that they're collecting data, they're investing, they're preparing information for the guys who are making decisions, but they don't have a vote, if you understand what I'm trying to say. Yeah. It all depends, which is kind of normal, if you ask me.
Yeah, and we were talking about the importance of workouts, about energy givers, and Jokubaitis was for sure one of them. And I know that many teams were disappointed that he couldn't come to the US. It's still not clear yet, at least officially, why he didn't come for the workouts.
But let me interrupt you here.
Okay.
At the same time, I'm not having a hard time being his agent, saying what guys you really want to see. He played 74 games this season. What else you want to see? Do you understand me? That's that question that you can always ask them about your player. Like, okay, you're missing what? So you had a chance to watch him against great teams, against great coaches, against great players, playing him. You had a chance to follow him playing on the road, at home, important games, not so important games. And all of a sudden they're like, okay, but, we would like to see you, on the workouts. No.
I see your point.
You understand?
Yes.
Or for example, right now you and me talking, and then Usman Garuba, I'm pretty sure he's in Tokyo. Am I right?
Yes,
He's a
of
part
course,
of Olympic teams.
Yeah, of course.
So imagine somebody asking him to come work out. I'm just using him as example. I'm not saying that will ever happen or that it did happen. You understand me? It's just I don't know, some teams have their own rules, and I understand that and I respect it. It's fine. And listen, some clubs, they don't want to accept to be farms for the NBA teams. Simply they don't want.
Yeah, and
they want to feel two-way street respect. I will have respect for you guys trying to get my player, but I'm expecting respect from your side. Is it too much to expect?
Yeah, you're right.
You understand my point? Okay. There's got to be something good that we are doing right here if you want him. I'm not talking about any of these players particularly. I'm just saying. Or sometimes when they're getting very young guy, a prospect, somebody they could invest 3 or 4 years to wait for him. Okay, we want to build him. We want to change his body. Maybe he will not be able to do that staying in Europe. I'm just saying that could be one of the scenarios. I'm not saying that is a universal rule.
Yeah, and what I was trying to say about Jokubaitis is that he could take this trip, as an advantage because he's such a great guy. He's such a great personality that some scouts believe that if teams would met him in person, he could at least, let's say, raise his stock a bit. And it's a bit sad that, mostly probably due to some health issues, he couldn't come because he had to solve some issues, and it might have shortened his time before the NBA draft, and probably it was no reason to come to the United States for like few days. Having in mind all these jet lags and stuff. Also, he was really tired after the season. But I wanted to say, he's such a great guy. He's such a great person that kind of meeting in person maybe would have helped him, before the NBA draft.
I agree with you, but then again, I will be a devil's advocate. I think having Schiller as his last season coach, and we both know he's a very well-connected coach in States, obviously, and him signing for Barcelona for Sharas Eskevicius, also well-connected, well-known coach in States, maybe talking to those two guys should be enough. I'm just saying, I'm just devil's advocate. But I understand your point. He would probably made a very good introduction of himself because of his personality. And for example, that's something that you know about him, living in Lithuania and watching him all the time. And me on the other side, just watching him during the games. You understand? That's that amount of information that we could have about a player. And I know for sure, and I agree with that 100%, that on court, off court informations are pretty much of the same importance. Okay, sometimes off court is very, very important. Very important.
What do you think? Where is the line of too much information? when scouts are digging about the player, where is the line that, guys, I mean, you should relax? I mean, it's just too much. It's not necessary information.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not sure there is, again, I will use the term. I'm not sure there is a universal rule, but like in anything else, like any other job, there is the essence of what you're trying to do. And if you understand the essence, everything else is not that important, so I guess different experience with players, different experience in scouting process, different teams, different GMs, and then there is something that most of the people out of sports don't understand. And there is always a low risk sign and a high risk sign, and sometimes you're simply not in a position to make high risk signs or picks in a draft. Simply you are in position that you have a lot of pressure and that you have to win as soon as possible, and then you really don't want to plan your future with I don't know, some kids out of starting their careers. It's simply, you're simply not in a position.
To wrap it up about Jokubaitis,
Okay.
as you said, looking from side, what do you like about Jokubaitis the most?
Energy, him being aggressive. I guess some people will not like this too much. I like that he was playing. I'm talking about Žalgiris season, the last season. I like him better as a two-man combo guard more than a so-called pure point guard. That's just me. Obviously, there are things in his game that he will have to work on it. As far as I know, kid is a worker and he wants to be better. So I think that's always a good combination. Physically, I think he has a proper type of body for his position. Obviously, I don't know, he's 6'4", him being 6'11" and playing the same way would help. But I think his body is the right size for what type of basketball he should play.
What is interesting that Rokas was playing as a pure point guard for Sharas, but when Schiller came, he wanted, to him become a more off-ball player because he thought that this is gonna help him for the NBA. But the thing is that Jokubaitis by himself wasn't a fan of this idea. At least in the end of the season, he mentioned that he enjoys playing as a true point guard more, and he didn't feel himself in the end of the season with Žalgiris. So my question is, what do you see in him as more an off-ball combo guard, and why do you think that he would be more successful?
Well, honestly, him playing as a pure point, the term that you're using, or combo, at the end of the day, he will have to be able to be a pick and roll ball handler in a pick and roll situation. That means that he will have to be able to create his own shots. He will have to be able to read defenses coverages, and he will have to be able to react when people are trying to cover him, changing coverages on him. And at the end of the day, and we were talking earlier about the tendencies, one of the tendencies is probably that those two, let's use the old school formation terms, point guard, shooting guard, probably are closer and closer. And when you watch the best teams in Europe or the NBA, obviously, when you watch FS Pilsen as a EuroLeague champion, you will see that they have how many? 4? Is it 4 or even 5 pick and roll ball handlers? or you were watching NBA finals with the Phoenix and that style of the game, and so many teams are playing that pick and roll heavy oriented offense. I guess that's what that pure point guard, combo guard is, because at the end of the day, I believe that him being coached with those two coaches year after year will only help him. I wouldn't be surprised if he figure out how to use what he learned from both of them and figure out his own way of playing that position. Because, at the end of the day, you're on the floor because of your skills, nothing else.
Yeah, in the end of the day, we also have to give a credit for Martin Schiller, because probably we discussed it earlier. It's not so common in the EuroLeague to give a young guard to play 21 minutes per game, especially when your job is at risk. Because in EuroLeague, it's always your job is at risk if you're the head coach.
Yeah, that's what I call a high risk. Like you have a low risk signs. For example, you sign a guy who played 10 years in EuroLeague. So you are like, you simply know what he can give you. Well, deciding to play Jokubaitis for 21 minutes is simply, it's you have to believe that he will be good enough for your team, that you are not losing games because of him. Okay. And many coaches in Europe cannot afford it. It is what it is.
And what if, NBA scouts love Jokubaitis, but they're also not sure, if he's EuroLeague player or he can, succeed in the NBA. And there's a high possibility that at least for the next season, he will be drafted and stashed, most likely. And if he will be stashed, he will go to Barcelona because he signed a new 4-year deal with Barca. And I to finish the discussion about Rokas, I just wanted to hear your opinion. What do you think about him moving from Žalgiris to Barcelona? As you mentioned, the team, which has a huge pressure, to win it all, but also acquiring a young player. So from the player's standpoint, what do you think about this move?
Let me ask you one thing, and obviously you don't have to answer me. If there is anyone else coaching Barcelona, do you think that he would choose to go there?
You know my answer.
Okay, so I think, the way Barcelona was recruiting him helped his decision. On the other end, I have no doubts that he would have benefits if he stayed in a system of Žalgiris. But I simply don't have doubts that he will have a good time in Barcelona. It's a win-win for him, and it's great, and it's great. Simply, it's great. And I don't know. Maybe we said enough. Maybe we said enough about him. But I don't see him having next season and thinking in June or what happened. I simply don't see that. Maybe I believe in him too much. I don't know.
By the way, scouts love to mention Goran Dragic. Let's say as a guy, as a path which Jokubaitis would follow. They compare their playing style, their qualities and stuff. You probably know Goran Dragic better than most of us. So do you see any similarities in their game?
Yeah, I coached him season before he left for the States. Yeah, you can mix them. You can compare those two. As I said, I like the energy. I like them both being aggressive. I like their instincts, because I believe that it's very valuable to find all those things that you cannot coach. And I think having instinct, understanding the game, having good perception of the court, I think that's very valuable. I think it's very valuable. And obviously, Goran was physically very gifted. I didn't coach Rokas, but what I see on the floor, I mean, I believe that he's pretty good physically for that type of position, and information, as I said before, like information that I have him being, interested in being better. It's always good. And what I know about Dragic, and you will tell me about Rokas, Dragic is unbelievably competitive person. Him and his brother, that's like, I can tell you stories and you would laugh and then you would say like, this is great. But he's so competitive. I don't know, Rokas way better than me, so I guess
maybe Rokas looks a little bit more relaxed, I think, and it's always hard to compare level of competitiveness when we talk about Goran Dragic.
Yeah, believe me, I was blessed.
Tell me some stories, because I know that there's.
Believe me, listen, hey. Whenever you want to start a funny story, it's like when you're asking any of brothers who is better in one-on-one. That's enough. You just throw out that question
and watch,
and then discussion starts. And they are extremely competitive. That's a great family. Their family. It's such a great sports story. Believe me. I mean, mother and father pushing them and supporting them in the good times and the bad times, and obviously they made great careers, and I think it's a great sports story, really one of the great sports story. And me, I'm very blessed that I was part of their careers, both of them. Actually, I coached both of them. It's crazy,
Another great story in the making is Usman Garuba. We already discussed
yes.
Some things about him. In my eyes, he's probably the most prepared, let's say, defensively Euro prospect I can remember. Is there anything to add about Garuba?
I'm pretty sure, like with the age, and I think his skills in offense will be more, how to say that, notable during the game. I think he will add more to his offense. Right now, what we know, his I call that quick under control roller. Okay, he knows he can roll quick. He understands the distances between him, screener, defense. At least that's how it looks to me. He's a willing passer. Obviously, can become better. And obviously, he's shooting. I mean, facing the basket. If we add that, and again, we're talking about him like he's a 26. He's just 19. Okay, so I'm pretty sure he will add that to his skill set. And what sometimes it's good that he will build those habits in order to help himself to be more, how to say that, influential in the game like NBA. For example, the other kid that we could talk about is Alperen Sengun, the Turkish kid. With him, we have a different example. And we both know, because we're following basketball and we like it, what happened to him last year. It's unbelievable. I don't know, do you agree with me?
Cinderella story. In my eyes, it's a Cinderella story.
Unbelievable improvement. Another young kid. I don't know. He's also 19, as far as I know. Again, as Garuba is defensively almost complete player right now. On this level, Schengen is, I don't know, am I pronouncing the right way? His last name, I apologize. But the way he played in the Turkish league, when you check his numbers with the serious teams from their league, and I'm talking about Efes Pilsen, I'm talking about Fenerbahce, I'm talking about Darüşşafaka, Karşıyaka, I don't know, Galatasaray. He's scoring, he's rebounding. Is he right now a old school type of inside player? Probably. But what I'm surprised with is the level of physicality, and same with Garuba. Garuba is a man in a kid's body, if you understand me. And same with Alperen. He's simply more physical than a 19-year-old kid should be. Footwork, offensive rebounding, positioning, pretty good level. Problem is that good enough for the NBA level? I'm not talking about EuroLeague level. I'm talking about the NBA level and the way he's playing, especially because of his habits to create problems from defense closer to the basket. For me, he's a inside player. Let's call it inside. And as you know, the rules about defending low post is a little bit different in the NBA. So for sure, he will have to add facing the basket part of offense in order to be successful on that level, for sure. It will help if he develops three-point range, something that, for example, a similar player to him, Filip Petrusev, developed this year. He left very serious program Gonzaga in order to play 1 year in Mega, and he simply went from here to over there because of the style of the game they were running and his individual improvement, adding the range and facing the basket skills.
Yeah.
So those two you can. Yeah.
What is interesting, that in Gonzaga, at least himself, he told that he was not allowed to shoot threes. And in Mega, we saw, completely different picture. As you mentioned, he became a really powerful force as a stretch five.
Yeah, listen, obviously they know, well, when we're talking about Mega, obviously they know what NBA level of basketball is looking for. So big man without 3-point shooting, or at least having what we're calling long two, is it's a skill that you should have if you want to play in nowadays NBA, or you have to be like extremely dominant on a low post. But again, even very dominant low post players are having problems to score in ISO situations on a low post because of the way referees are letting defense to play in the NBA, which is totally different with what we have here in Europe. And let's try not to open that topic because it's we don't have time for that.
Yeah, and Alperen Sengun is so skilled offensively, and one of the reasons, by the way, why we're talking about this Cinderella story, he was much more, let's say, heavier before, and if I'm right, he lost something around 13 kilos, comparing 2 years ago and a year ago. So maybe it had helped him a bit. And what is interesting, he was always next to Usman Garuba, and I think it was FIBA U18 tournament in European Championship. They were both made the all-tournament team, despite the fact that they were 1 year younger than all the rest of the guys. And it is so interesting to watch them because they are so different. Because when we talk about Alperen, he's all about the offense, all about the offensive skill. He's so skilled. I mean, he's just amazing inside the paint. Then Garuba is a defensive killer. And we like to say that defense wins championships and that usually offensive talent gets a better salary check. But when we talk about the long-term NBA future, what would you pick? Defense or offense?
No, don't put me in that situation, man. Don't put me there. I will tell you, it is different from a player to player. But I like that point that you make about those two comparing. And listen, both will have to add something to their game in order to be successful on the next level. Are they in a good spot? I think they are. And I watched some of the kids that they are projecting very, very high in the draft. Some of the American kids. And some of them are very talented, very gifted. But I wouldn't be surprised if those two guys are sleepers on this draft. And honestly, who can talk about some universal rules of draft after all of us witnessing what Jokic is doing?
Yeah, Jokic is a rule breaker, let's say.
Absolutely. And you know what? He's probably not the only one. And, sometimes, highly, just for your fun, when you have time, check the rosters of EuroLeague teams in the last 5 years and Eurocup. You will be amazed how many top 15 draft picks played in Europe. The number of NBA draft picks, first 15 draft picks played in last 5 years in Europe. You will be amazed. And I don't want to spoil your fun, but just sit and go through the list. Or if you want to do it to have even more fun, try to find all first rounders playing in Europe, and you will be like, no way. But it is a fact. So it is what it is.
And what these numbers says about the overall situation?
No, I'm leaving this conclusion to you, man. We'll talk about after Olympics, and I will call you and say, Donatas, did you check these numbers? Yes, coach. Yeah. Well, what do you think? Unbelievable. And it is. Maybe you should find somebody else and talk about it. Yeah.
Listen, when we talk about universal rules, we have Usman Garuba, who obviously has, to work with his outside shot. And I wish him, following Serge Ibaka path, because he was not, nothing close to a shooter. He started to shoot threes like in probably his 6th or 7th season with OKC. So I hope that, we have same kind of potential with Garuba.
Well, you have a similar example with Lopez from Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, those are career-changing moments. Adding a range or adding a new skill, it's very important. Like so many people are talking about Doncic and Jokic. Simply when they're processing what's going on the floor, they're doing that way faster than most of the players. They understand the distance. They understand the spacing. Unbelievable. And they're both passers, good passers. Processing, understanding where you are, what you need to do is very important. It's very important. And that's one of the things, and that's one of the things that you cannot improve with a practice. You can help yourself to stay on a high level focus for a longer time. I'm not sure that you can speed up processing what's going on in front of you. So it's just my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. Then I will learn something.
And the question I was leaning to was, you mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, very interesting fact about the number of games. For example, Franz Wagner and Garuba and Jokubaitis played in 2 years. If you could compare the numbers in 2 years, it would be brutal. But what I want to say, what is better for a young player, to have such a heavy schedule, or to have, let's say, a less number of games, but more time for practice, working on skills? Because maybe, just an example, Garuba or Sengun, the same, maybe they would have benefit more from having more time to work on their skills.
Yeah, that's one side. On the one side, let's say that you have one game a week. Let's say, just saying like that. Let you play one game a week, or let's say that you're playing 3 games in 2 weeks. Doesn't matter. And obviously that means that, for example, you can spend more time trying to figure out what's good for your body. you have more time to work on your skills. The thing in the NCAA, and you're aware of it, they do have limited hours during the week to work out. But for example, having teams in Europe who are fully aware that they need to improve their players, having one game a week, it's pretty good for players. It gives you more time to work on the skills, to work on your body, and still stay in the competitive shape. Let's use that term. On the other end, if you believe that experience is very important for the highest level of basketball, and I believe it is, then obviously you have to give pluses to players like Garuba or Jokubaitis, meaning they're playing on a high level against great coaches, great players. Okay, and I think there is benefits in that too. So probably in a perfect world, you have to mix both of it. And I do understand that having the numbers of games, for example, in EuroLeague, with all those double weeks, with 2 games per week and everything, and traveling all across the continent, not having enough time for the working on the basics, on fundamentals or body. Yeah, it is a problem. Of course, it is a problem, especially if you're playing, and those two are playing in a so-called demanding, environments where success is something that it's normal for them. Obviously, you do understand, and I coached in Lithuania, so I know how important it is to win. Real Madrid, that's a top level club in a EuroLeague, and now Rokas signing in Barcelona team with obviously having 1 goal next season, and that's to win the EuroLeague. So is he going to have the same amount of time like he's playing 1 game a week? No way. But it is what it is. You have to make decisions between those two.
Yeah, and Franz Wagner, he played 2 seasons in Michigan. The last season he averaged 12.45 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, 3 assists. He can shoot from the outside. He can defend. He can play multiple positions. He's very high IQ player. And what is interesting, he was playing for ALBA Berlin prior to going to Gonzaga. And even then, when he was really young, he was maybe 16 or 17, he left a great impression for other players, for experienced players. And they already told that he was much smarter. He was much more matured than his age. He was always very, let's say, determined, ambitious. He had no authorities on the court. And, it was already a great feedback. And even some players told that back then they thought that it's a future top 10 NBA draft player. So, that skill of reading the game, reading the defenses and stuff helps him a lot and might help him in the NBA. What would be your take about Franz Wagner? What do you like about him the most?
I didn't watch him enough. I saw, let's say, 3-4. I watched March Madness games, and I watched maybe 2 games during the season. So I simply could not say that I'm an expert when we are talking about evaluating him. But I will go back a little bit. We have, let's say, players who are similar age. All these kids, we're talking about their similar age. But on the one hand, you checked players that we talked about, including Sengun, because he played against Turkish league, which is one of the best leagues in Europe. All these kids proved themselves on that level, and if you want to be honest, that's a higher level than NCAA level. I'm talking about pro basketball teams in one of the best leagues in Europe. And NCAA basketball is very good level for the players and everything, but I have to give pluses to other players that we were talking about. At the same time, I have to give him plus having more time to develop his skills. So what's next for him? I would say that him understanding that he will have to play face to the basket type of the basketball. I think his 3-point shooting have to be way better. That's just me. Watching those games. I would love to see him. Let's say that if he's played like a stretch four, I would love to see him being more aggressive on offensive boards. But again, some teams are simply not forcing their players to go for a rebound. So him as a stretch four, that's another opportunity for him. I would love to see him being more aggressive, if you understand what I'm trying to say. But there is a big question on next level, NBA level, or I don't know, EuroLeague or any level that he will play. Is he going to be a go-to guy, or is he going to be one of the guys who will, I call them logistic groups? Is he the guy supporting the stars? And probably for some time he will be part of that second group. So his range, his size, that's a good size for a 3-man, and passing, as you said, high IQ and everything. Him being able to make a decision to leave one good club and leaving to States, that's when young players are making those type of decisions, that tells a lot about them. It's the same with Petrusev, him leaving Gonzaga because he understands what's good for him. Obviously paid off. Him being MVP of ALBA League, it's not the easiest thing to do. So, but go back to Wagner. It all depends what type of the team he will play. If he's playing, so-called open court, up tempo type of team, probably he would be good at for it.
Yeah. So far he's projected.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, the good thing is that his coach is well-known NBA player. So I guess they were talking and thinking about him also. But again, to go back to Wagner, I mean, I'm following those mock drafts and everything. Lately, his name is going up and up and up, which is fine. But since I have no information how good his workouts are, maybe he's great in workouts. Maybe he's showing something that they couldn't see during the games. Maybe they are putting him in some different situations than he had on a college, and that's one of the reasons that you actually having those workouts. They want to test you in isolated situations.
Yeah, and ESPN's Jonathan Givony lists him as a number 9 overall pick in this draft, and this pick is owned by Sacramento Kings. Alperen Sengun is 12th projected pick. Usman Garuba is 19th. Rokas Jokubaitis is 44th, and Petrusev is 42nd. Can you expand your thoughts about Petrusev, to finish it up, about our discussion about main European prospects for the draft?
Well, that means for sure that I don't know enough about draft and mock drafts, actually, but listen, having players.
Did you try to have this discussion with NBA people, about all these mocks and about, projecting players' future?
Well, listen, we are talking about it, but nothing like serious because as I said, different teams, different needs, different philosophies. I respect that and I accept it. So it is, wasting time trying to convince them in what you believe or myself or somebody else. No reason, waste of energy, waste of time. So they have their own ways. We have our own ways, Sometimes I'm pretty sure we're watching basketball in a different way, which is fine. That's okay. That's the beauty of it,
Yeah, so once again, Petrusev's situation was really strange because, the last year he was also projected as probably somewhere in 40s and in 50s. Now, as we said, he took a very drastic, very brave decision to leave Gonzaga for Mega. He expanded his game. He improved his, range. He became the MVP of ALBA League, scoring, 20.1 point per game, 7.4 rebounds.
And he became very important part of Serbian national team.
Yeah, he
that's
was
another thing.
Yeah.
And that's something new. So obviously, people following him don't appreciate that. It's okay. I think that when you're having player like him, and he's something I like to call combo big, probably more efficient as a 5-man who can pop and make decisions because he's a decent passer and he can put the ball on the floor. I think that teams could find a place for him to use it. Can you find a more athletic big guy? Yeah, probably you can. But on the other end, his size is a very, very decent for that spot. And you know what? Maybe it's time for some new tendencies. You never know.
Talking about tendencies, we prepared this topic before the podcast, and I'm not sure if we discussed it enough. Again, universal rules. There are no rules for every player, but NCAA, Europe, or Spain. What's your experience about young players selecting their path? Because it seems like, again, it's like a tendency. For example, in Lithuania, 10 years ago, head coach of Lithuania, Jonas Kazlauskas, the Basketball Federation, were, let's say, publicly against young prospects coming to the NCAA. Now we see top prospects of Lithuania like Ąžuolas Tubelis, like Augustas Marčiulionis going to NCAA. Then we see Rokas Jokubaitis and his unique path from Žalgiris. And then we see the rest of the guys, going to Spain and stuff like that. So how, as a coach who recently worked in Spain, worked in Serbia, who worked in NBA, what do you think about all these different paths?
Well, again, it's individual because I think it's pretty hard to force somebody's decision about their own future, if you understand what I'm trying to say. I will give you the example of my, I really like that kid that I coached in Estudiantes, Giedraitis.
Oh, Dovis Giedraitis, he's a great. He's coming to Lietkabelis this year.
Yeah,
I'm happy to have him.
I know. Chanak asked me about him, and I said, sign him. Don't ask me anything else. Just sign him. If you can sign him, that's it. Listen, that's unbelievable kid. I have I cannot find words to say something good enough for him. Great kid, patient, hard worker, wants to be better, good listener. I think he's a good teammate, brave. And I'm so pissed off that he had those injuries during my time over there. And I really like him. And for example, let's use his example. I hope he will not, and his family will not mind that. So you have him going to Spain, and the rules of us ACB. After years of that, you get let's call it, how you say it, Spanish passport or Spanish basketball citizenship. Is it right? Yeah. Proper way to say it? Yeah. And it's very important, actually. We know that ACB is probably the best league out of NBA, and I understand that. I understand the path for a young Lithuanian kid going there because, listen, it's pretty much the similar things are happening to some Serbian kids. And at the same time, you will find so many young players in Spain, working on those citizenships, basketball citizenship, because it will open up everything. Some other doors in their careers will be more open. But at the same time, I understand that some people they really want to go to states to go through the NCAA, and then you have obviously third group, young players staying in their own clubs in Lithuania, Serbia, Spain, wherever, Germany. And is there a the best way for a young player? I don't believe that. I think it's very, very individual, because like, I don't know, you have your own skill set, and then you have this opportunity in this scenario. If it works for you, I mean, there is absolutely no guarantee it would work for me. And I know one thing that what people don't understand is sending your son or daughter, whatever, very young to the foreign country to play basketball, to live another life. Like we're always talking about differences between the States and Europe, or between countries in Europe. And it's not just basketball, it's a way of life, it's cultural differences and all those things. There is no guarantees that you will adjust the right way. Simply, I have a great respect for every kid trying to do what's best for him. The thing is, what you as a federation or any federation, whatever it is, could do is, to create a healthy environment for those kids not to think about going to States or somewhere else, other country. And the problem is that how can you do that? At the same time, you have clubs, trying to win, and it is sometimes so hard to develop players and win at the same time. It's very hard. It's very hard. And I understand. Actually, I understand federation. I understand that and I think I remember what coach was talking about back then. But I understand players. Them. Trying to.
They're looking for better opportunities. Let's say better conditions.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? As I think. If you're more basketball oriented, meaning that you're ready to take a higher risk, I think that you would probably try to make your career somewhere in Europe. In States, at least you have education. You get education. You understand? And if you don't make your career the way you want it, at least you have a good start for the rest of your life.
It's like a plan B.
Or plan A for some families.
Yes.
I remember my first practice when I signed for the Kirkanovo Mesto. It was back then 2009. And player from rotation was a player of under 20 of Slovenia. And I remember that kid not showing up at the first practice of the senior team because he decided to quit basketball. After summer with the national team under 20, he simply said, his family, they sat together and they said like, okay, we'll try to get education. That's a low risk decision. Proper way, something that you want for your kid. Get education and start working, start to live your own life. Basketball wise, you're fully aware that percentage of successful basketball players is not that high. And we are fully aware of it. And it's part of them being ready to be some kind of gladiators. Honestly, that's their path. That's what they choose. And sometimes they don't get enough respect for those kind of decisions.
Yeah. And another, probably the last question.
Okay.
Let's say the last question which we didn't solve yet in many years in Europe, and which is bothering us every time we mention it. We have guys like Garuba, Jokubaitis, also some other players who are going to the NBA and will be bought out from their teams in Europe. And in the current situation, the buyout for the NBA team is $750,000. It just increased a bit.
Yeah.
What do you think? What will need to happen? What needs to happen that in one day European clubs would get legitimate reward for preparing a great player, great prospect, future star for the NBA team? Because we know what is 750,000 euros in Europe.
Yeah. I will again. I'll be devil's advocate. That's still more than NCAA college is getting when their players are leaving early. And it is such a interesting topic. I'm not sure there is a right type of number. That there is an amount of money that would make everybody in that game satisfied, because obviously we want players to be satisfied. We want their new clubs to be satisfied. We want their own old clubs to be satisfied, because they want to be motivated to do it again, if you understand what I'm trying to say. But nowadays, I mean, you remember back in the days, historically, we remember big amounts of money when some players are going from team to team in Europe. But lately, those things are not happening. Or am I missing it? You will not find, for example, I don't know, you know the right amount of money for Jokubaitis to go from one EuroLeague to another EuroLeague team.
Yeah, it was only something close to 225,000 euros, but it's very different. For example, when we take Spain, we see buyouts of like 1.5 million or 1 million.
Exactly. When you check how much Real Madrid paid for Abalde, for example, it is a big time difference. So again, as I said, depends, goes from case to case. So how to say that? It's very different for each and every player, but that's another part of basketball, that money part, that maybe we should let guys who knows more about it discuss and think about. I don't know how to help anyone in that circle. I like parts of Italian system. When you have a kid going from one club to another, like the starting club where you started your career, still getting money every time you're going from team to team. I don't know. Are you aware of it?
No, I didn't know. I mean, they get some, percentage of the money after every transfer.
Yeah, something like that.
That's how it should be. Probably that's more common in football.
Well, listen, there's so many things in football that maybe we should copy paste. I don't know, maybe, but on the other end, it is different sport and a different amounts of money, honestly. So, to go back to your answer, I don't see the right way of dealing with it, so everybody is happy, honestly.
Yeah, I
mean, you are aware that teams are not making money in Europe.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem.
They're not making money. Simply, they're not.
Maybe at least, growing players, preparing them for the NBA will help them, financially to let's say, to be motivated again, to prepare, to invest in young players, because
but how often you can create player good enough to go to NBA year after year and after year and after year and after year? It's not the easiest thing. It's not the easiest thing. It's very hard, actually. But that's something that clubs will have to figure out.
Okay, so to finish up our podcast, I will just mention that we discussed pretty much in detail five, let's say, top or let's say
Or best known. Let's say best known.
Yeah. Best known European prospects before the NBA draft 2021, which we will have in 2 days, July 29th. And I will mention also some other second rounders which you should follow.
Some sleepers. Some of them are pretty interesting.
Yeah, and probably we will stop at one of the guys who is very interesting to Aleksandar Dzikic. So I will just mention that, for example, Joel Ayayi, who spent past 3 seasons in Gonzaga, is projected as the 37th pick. We have another French guy, Johan Begarin, who played in Paris team. He's 40th projected pick. Also, what else do we have? Guy from Belgium, forward from Belgium, Vrens Bleyenberg from Antwerp. He's projected to be 52nd. Then also we have Santi Aldama from Spain, 55th by ESPN's mock draft. And we also have at the number 59, Sandro Mamukhelashvili from Georgia. Big guy from Georgia.
Yes. That's the
and I heard you love him, right?
Well, he's an interesting one. You know what I saw. I will follow him. Honestly, I will follow him. I don't know too much information about him off court and those things, but I watch him playing, and some things are very interesting to me.
For example, he has some Nikola Jokic, right?
No, it's not about Jokic or things like that. It's about him, being a combo big. And him being more skillful than I was expecting for that type of the body, and the way he's scoring and acting on the floor. It makes me kind of interested in what will happen with him in the next 2-3 years. Who knows? I mean, some kids who were great on the NCAA level, they simply became one-off European players. I mean, players in the European League. And then some really almost known names became big-time names in the EuroLeague. And as you know, I mean, we can find many examples of it. So it's, finding those diamonds in the rough, it's an interesting thing.
Oh yeah, so best of luck for Sandro and best of luck for other European prospects. We hope to witness some other Nikola Jokic or I don't know, Manu Ginobili stories, because we Europeans always root for such success stories and about all these sleepers.
Well, we want to show them I guess having 3 Europeans in a best NBA team is not enough. So. This year it's Giannis, Luka, and Jokic, best 5. So I guess we want more.
Yeah, we have to stay humble and ambitious.
Absolutely. We're still following the right ways from the league.
Thanks a lot for this podcast, Coach. I think it was pretty, let's say, not ordinary one. Because usually probably guys, list players and they discuss it, player by player. But it was a, let's say, very organic discussion. And from that discussion, we let's say, previewed all these European prospects for the draft.
Most of the time you have guys without this beard. So I don't know. It's off season. So I let it grow. I hope I'll help, I'll help you at least a little bit. Thanks for the opportunity. And I really respect what you're doing in a basketball world. Have the best of luck. Have the best of luck. All the best for your listeners, viewers. Take care, guys.
I appreciate you once again. Thanks a lot, Coach Dzikic. Best of luck for you and the next season with Budućnost Podgorica. You can find this podcast on YouTube, Basket News channel. Also, you should follow us on basketnews.com. And of course, you can find us on audio platforms like Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and stuff like that. So once again, it was a great conversation and always a pleasure, Coach Dzikic. Have a nice day.
Bye.